Hello, this is Alex, and welcome to English in Fluency. This is the podcast where we not only practice our English listening, but also learn how to build a better life. Today, we are talking about something that is, perhaps, more important than any grammar rule or vocabulary list. We are talking about confidence. We are talking about believing in yourself. Have you ever had a brilliant idea, a really good thought, but you stayed silent? You kept quiet in a meeting, or in a class, or even just with friends. Have you ever wanted to speak up, to share your opinion, or to ask for something you deserve? But a small, cold voice inside your head whispered, "You are not good enough," or "They will laugh at you," or "What if you make a mistake?" That feeling, that heavy, cold feeling, is doubt. It is the opposite of self-belief. Today, we are going to explore where this doubt comes from. And more importantly, we are going to learn practical, simple ways to build real, lasting confidence, not just in your life, but in your English learning journey too. Because learning a new language is an act of courage. It requires you to be brave, to make mistakes, and to believe that you can and you will improve. To understand this journey, I want to tell you a story. It is a story about someone who might feel very familiar to you. Her name is Clara. Clara is a kind, intelligent, and hard-working woman. She works in a busy marketing office. The office is always loud, full of people talking quickly, sharing big ideas, and moving fast. Clara is very good at her job. When she is at her computer, alone, she creates wonderful campaigns. Her ideas are creative and smart. But there is one problem. Clara is terrified of speaking in front of other people. She has very low self-confidence. She feels small. She feels invisible. In her office, there is a colleague named Mark. Mark is not more creative than Clara. He is not smarter than Clara. But Mark is very confident. He speaks in a loud, clear voice. He presents his ideas, even the bad ones, with so much energy that people always listen. Clara often watches Mark in meetings and feels a pain in her stomach. She thinks, "I wish I could be like that. Why is it so easy for him and so hard for me?" She believes that confidence is something you are born with, like having blue eyes or brown hair. She believes that she just was not born with it. One Monday morning, Clara's boss, Mr. Harrison, called everyone into the main conference room. The energy in the room was high. Mr. Harrison stood at the front, looking excited. "Good morning, team," he said, his voice booming. "I have a major announcement. Our biggest client, Horizon Mobile, wants a brand new campaign for next year. This is the biggest project our company has ever had. This is a chance to do something truly amazing." He paused, looking at every face in the room. "And I am not giving this project to the senior team. I am opening the floor. In 2 weeks, I want anyone who has an idea to present it to the board. The person with the best, most creative campaign will not only get their idea made, they will become the new project lead for the Horizon campaign." Clara's heart stopped. It felt like it stopped beating for a whole second. An idea, a brilliant, shining idea, immediately flashed into her mind. She had been thinking about something for weeks, a new way to connect with customers, something personal, something digital. Her new idea was perfect for this. It was better than perfect. She felt a tiny spark of excitement. But then, almost immediately, the cold voice inside her head spoke. The voice was loud today. "A project lead? You? Don't be ridiculous," the voice whispered. "You can't even speak in a weekly meeting. How can you present to the board? Mark will present something amazing. He always does. You will stand up, your face will turn red, you will forget your words, and you will make a fool of yourself. Just keep quiet. It's safer. Don't even try. Clara looked down at her notepad. She saw Mark already writing notes, a confident smile on his face. The tiny spark of excitement in Clara's heart died. It was replaced by the familiar, heavy feeling of fear. She believed the voice. She decided, right there in the meeting, that she would not try. It was just too scary. This is a really important moment. This is the moment we are talking about today. Clara has an idea. She has the skill. But her belief in herself is missing. That voice, that inner critic, is stronger than her ambition. Let's think about that phrase, inner critic. It means the negative voice inside your own head. It is the part of you that judges you, criticizes you, and tells you that you are not good enough. We all have one. When you are learning English, your inner critic is probably very, very busy. When you try to speak, does your inner critic say, "Your pronunciation is terrible"? Or, "That grammar was wrong"? Or, "Everyone thinks you sound stupid"? It is the same voice that Clara is hearing. The first step to building confidence is not to pretend this voice does not exist. The first step is to simply notice it, to recognize it. That voice is not the truth. It is just a voice. It is a product of old fears, of past mistakes, of times when maybe someone did laugh at you. But it is not the truth about your future. Think about your own inner critic for a moment. What does it usually say to you, especially when you are trying to use your English? Just notice the words it uses. Does it say, "You always," or "You never"? You always make mistakes. You will never be fluent. These are very strong, very negative words. Recognizing this voice is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can suddenly see what is really there. It is not a monster. It is just a shadow. Clara, at this moment, thinks the shadow is a monster. She thinks it is telling her the truth. So, she left the meeting feeling terrible. She felt weak and disappointed in herself. She went to lunch and sat alone in a small park near her office, feeling the cold wind and feeling just as cold inside. She felt stuck. She did not know how to change this feeling. Later that evening, Clara was walking home. She felt so defeated. Defeated means to feel like you have lost a battle. She was walking so slowly, looking at the ground, that she almost bumped into someone. "Oh, my apologies," a warm voice said. Clara looked up and saw Mrs. Evelyn, an older woman who used to work at her company years ago. She had retired, but she was a legend in the office, known for being incredibly wise and kind. "Clara, how lovely to see you," Mrs. Evelyn said, her eyes smiling. "But you look like you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." "Is everything all right, dear?" Clara usually just said, "I'm fine, thank you." But today, seeing Mrs. Evelyn's kind face, something inside her just broke. She felt tears come to her eyes. "Oh, Mrs. Evelyn," she whispered, "I don't think I am. I feel very stuck." Mrs. Evelyn guided her to a nearby bench and just sat with her, patiently. So, Clara told her everything. She told her about the Horizon Project. She told her about her idea. And she told her about the terrible, loud voice in her head that said she was a fool for even thinking about it. She told her how she felt weak compared to Mark, how she felt she was born without confidence. She expected Mrs. Evelyn to pat her on the back and say, "Oh, that's too bad." But she did not. Mrs. Evelyn listened, nodding slowly, until Clara was finished. Then she was quiet for a moment. "Clara," she said softly, "you believe something that is not true. You believe confidence is a gift. You believe it is a magic quality that some people have and some people do not. This is not true. Not at all." Clara looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "Confidence," Mrs. Evelyn said, leaning in a little, "is not a thunderstorm. It is not a big, loud, sudden event. Confidence is a house. It is something you build. You build it one small, boring, unexciting brick at a time. You are looking at Mark's finished house, and you are feeling bad that you do not have one. But he built his. And you can build yours. You just need to lay the first brick." Clara felt a little bit of hope. "A brick? What do you mean? What is a brick?" Mrs. Evelyn smiled. "You are thinking about the giant, scary presentation. That is not a brick. That is the whole roof. You cannot build a roof in the air. You must start on the ground. A brick is the smallest possible action you can take. You are afraid to present the idea, but are you afraid to write the idea down?" Clara thought about it. "No, I'm not afraid to write it. I can do that." "Good," said Mrs. Evelyn, "but let's make it even smaller. Your homework for tonight is not to write the whole presentation. That's too big. That's a wall, not a brick. Your homework tonight is to open your computer, create a new document, and write one single sentence. Just one sentence that describes your idea. Can you do that?" Clara almost laughed. "One sentence?" "Yes, of course I can do that." "Wonderful," Mrs. Evelyn said. "That is your first brick. You are focusing on the outcome. The outcome is scary. The outcome is the presentation, the board, the project. We cannot control the outcome, but we can control the action. The action is small. The action is one sentence. Confidence does not come from thinking about doing something. Confidence comes from doing it. It is the result of action. This is such a powerful, powerful lesson. Let's stop and really think about what Mrs. Evelyn said. Confidence is the result of action. We have it backwards. We think we must feel confident first, and then we will do the scary thing. We wait to feel confident before we speak English. We wait to feel fluent before we have a conversation. But it is the opposite. You must have the conversation first, and then you will feel more confident. You must speak first, and then you will believe you can speak. This idea of small bricks is the secret. The task, become a fluent English speaker, is huge. It is a giant, scary roof. It is overwhelming. Overwhelming means it is too big. It makes you want to quit. But what is one brick? Maybe one brick is listening to this podcast for 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes. That is an action you can control. Maybe one brick is learning one new vocabulary word today. Not 50, just one. Can you do that? Yes, you can. When you do it, you have laid a brick. You have taken a small action. And that small action proves to your brain that you can do it. Your brain says, "Oh, I did that. I succeeded." That tiny feeling of success is the beginning of confidence. Let's practice this idea right now. Let's practice a small, controllable action. I am going to say a sentence. This sentence is a brick. I want you to repeat it after me, out loud. Even if you are sitting alone, say it. The action of speaking is the brick. Ready? Repeat after me. I am building my confidence. Let's do it again. I am building my confidence. Good. One more time, a different sentence. My small actions matter. Good. You just took an action. You spoke English. You did not wait until you felt perfect. You just did it. You just laid a brick. This is the first and most important step. We must break down our big, scary goals into tiny, manageable, non-scary actions. So, let's go back to Clara. She went home that night. She still felt nervous about the presentation, but she did not feel hopeless. She had a plan. She had her homework. She sat at her desk. She opened her laptop. She created a new document. And she thought, okay, one sentence. Just one. She typed, "My idea is a campaign that connects with people through their personal stories." She looked at the sentence. The inner critic, the shadow, was still there. It whispered, "That's a stupid sentence." But Clara remembered what Mrs. Evelyn said. She was not focusing on the outcome. She was focusing on the action. She did the action. Okay, she thought, I did my homework. But then, something interesting happened. She thought of a second sentence, so she wrote it. We can use short videos from real users, and then she thought of a third. It will feel authentic and real. Before she knew it, it was midnight. She looked at her document. She had written 4 full pages. She had outlined her entire campaign. The ideas just flowed out of her. She was not trying to be perfect. She was not thinking about the presentation. She was just working. When she finally went to bed, she felt something new. It was not confidence, not yet, but it was momentum. It was the feeling of moving forward, and she slept better than she had in weeks. The next morning, Clara felt different. She felt lighter. She had her idea on paper. It was real. But then she walked into the office, and she saw Mark. He was in a small conference room, practicing his presentation. He was wearing a suit. He was pointing at a slideshow with big, professional-looking graphs. He looked like a CEO. And immediately, Clara's good feeling vanished. It was replaced by that cold, sick feeling of fear. Her inner critic came back, and this time it was yelling. Look at him. He is a professional. Your 4 pages of notes are nothing. You are a child. You will stand up there, and your voice will shake. You cannot do this. She felt her hands get cold. She wanted to take her laptop, delete the file, and forget the whole thing. She felt the urge to run. Instead, she went to the park at lunchtime. She knew Mrs. Evelyn often sat there and read, and thankfully, she was there. "Ah, Clara," Mrs. Evelyn said, looking up from her book. "How was your one sentence?" Clara managed a small smile. It turned into 4 pages. It felt amazing last night." "Wonderful," said Mrs. Evelyn. "So you are laying more bricks. You are building your wall." "I was," Clara said, her voice dropping. "But then I saw Mark. He's so confident. He looks like he belongs at the front of the room. I know my idea is good, but I am terrified of saying it. My voice will shake, I'll turn red, and everyone will see that I'm an imposter." The word imposter means someone who is pretending to be something they are not. This is a very common feeling. It is called imposter syndrome. It is the feeling that you are a fraud, and any moment someone will discover the truth about you. Mrs. Evelyn nodded, as if she understood this feeling completely. "Ah, yes. The fear of being seen," she said. "You have met your inner critic. That voice you hear, the one that tells you that you are an imposter and that Mark is a professional?" "Yes," Clara whispered. "It's so loud." "Good," Mrs. Evelyn said. Clara was shocked. "Good? Why is that good?" "Because you can hear it," Mrs. Evelyn explained. "You are separating yourself from it. It is not you. It is a voice. Now it is time for the second lesson. That voice, it needs a name." Clara laughed. A name? Yes, something a little silly. Give it a name. When you name it, you take away its power. It is not the truth anymore. It is just Mr. Grumbles, or the Doubt Monster, or Negative Nancy. My inner critic, for years, I called him Barnaby. He was very formal and very critical. Clara thought for a moment. It feels like a shadow, a cold shadow that follows me. Perfect, said Mrs. Evelyn. So, from now on, when you hear that voice, you will say, "Ah, hello, shadow. Thank you for sharing. I hear you, but I am busy right now." You see, you cannot fight the shadow. You cannot argue with it. If you fight it, it gets stronger. You just acknowledge it. You notice it, and then you turn your attention back to the work. This is a technique from psychology. It is about detaching from your negative thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. But how do I do the presentation? Clara asked. The shadow is telling me I will fail. The shadow is afraid of what might happen. Mrs. Evelyn said, the only way to quiet that fear is with the second great tool of confidence, preparation. You are afraid you will forget your words. So, you must prepare so well that you cannot forget your words. You must know your presentation so well that you could say it in your sleep. You must know it backwards and forwards. Confidence, my dear, is not the absence of fear. Confidence is action in the presence of fear. And the best armor, the best protection against fear, is preparation. Mark looks confident because he has prepared. You can do the same. You have 2 weeks. You have your idea. The work now is not to worry. The work is to prepare. This is the second key to self-belief. Preparation. Think about this in your English learning. When do you feel most nervous? Probably when you are unprepared. When you walk into a situation and you do not know the vocabulary. When someone asks you a question and you have never thought about the answer in English. Your inner critic, your shadow, loves it when you are unprepared. It can yell, "See? You don't know what to say. You are a failure." But what if you prepare? What if you are going to a restaurant? You can prepare. You can look up the menu online. You can learn the vocabulary for order, bill, fork, water. You can even practice the sentences. I would like the chicken, please. Could I have the bill, please? When you walk into the restaurant, you will still be nervous. Yes. Remember, confidence is not the absence of fear. But when the waiter comes, you will have your preparation as your armor. You will be able to speak. Preparation is another form of laying bricks. Every time you study, you are laying a brick. Every time you listen to this podcast, you are preparing. You are building your armor. So, let's practice this idea. Let's practice a phrase of preparation. Repeat after me. I am prepared for this. Again, I am prepared for this. Now, let's practice what Clara learned. Let's give your inner critic a name. Just think of a name right now. Any name. Got it? Now, let's practice speaking to it. Repeat after me. Hello, your name for the critic. Good. Now this part. I hear you, but I am busy preparing. One more time. I hear you, but I am busy preparing. This is how you take your power back. You acknowledge the fear, and you focus on the work. Clara left Mrs. Evelyn with a new plan. She had 2 goals. First, name her critic. Second, prepare. She went home and she started working. For the next 10 days, she worked harder than she ever had before. She researched statistics to support her idea. She created beautiful slides for her presentation. She did not just use boring graphs. She used powerful images and stories, just like her campaign idea. And every time the shadow whispered in her ear, "This is not good enough. Marks will be better," she would stop. She would take a breath, and she would say out loud, in her empty apartment, "Hello, shadow. Thank you for sharing. I am busy working right now," and she would get back to work. Then she started to practice. This was the hardest part. She started by reading her presentation out loud to her cat. Her voice shook. She felt silly, but she did it. The next day, she practiced again, standing in front of a mirror. She watched herself. She saw her face get red. She saw her hands shake. But she kept going. She did it again and again. She recorded her voice on her phone and listened to it. She hated the sound of her voice. Her inner critic said, "You sound like a child." She said, "Hello, shadow. I'm busy." And she listened again, this time taking notes on where she could improve, where she spoke too fast, where she needed to pause for effect. She was not just worrying. She was working. She was preparing. She was building her armor, brick by brick. The day before the presentation, she felt almost ready. She was still terrified, but she knew her material. She knew it inside and out. She decided to do one final test. She asked a colleague she trusted, a quiet designer named Ben, if he would listen to her presentation during their lunch break. "Oh, sure, Clara," he said, looking surprised. "I'd be happy to." They went into a small meeting room. Clara stood up. Her heart was pounding. It was the first time she was presenting to a real person. She began. "Hello," she squeaked. Her voice was high and weak. She stumbled. She mixed up her first 2 slides. She forgot a key statistic. Her mind went completely blank. She looked at Ben, who was just watching her patiently. I'm sorry," Clara stammered, her face burning red. I messed up. This is terrible. I'm sorry to waste your time." She gathered her papers and ran out of the room, leaving Ben sitting there. She ran to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and cried. The shadow was screaming now. It was louder than it had ever been. "You are a complete and total failure. You practiced for 2 weeks and you failed. You are an imposter and you just proved it. You cannot do this. You must quit. You have to email Mr. Harrison and tell him you are sick. It is the only way." Clara sat on the floor, shaking. All her work, all her preparation felt like it was for nothing. She had failed. The shadow was right all along. She was just not born with confidence. After work, she went to Mrs. Evelyn's house. She was planning to tell her that she was quitting. She knocked on the door, her eyes red from crying. When Mrs. Evelyn opened the door and saw her, her warm smile faded. "Oh, dear Clara. Come in. Tell me what happened." Clara sat on the sofa and told her about the practice presentation with Ben, how she had frozen, how she had failed. "So, you see," Clara finished, wiping her eyes, "it's no use. I am just not meant to do this." The shadow was right. Mrs. Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Clara was afraid she was disappointed in her. Finally, Mrs. Evelyn spoke. "Clara," she said gently, "you practiced for 2 weeks. You were brave, and you asked a colleague for help. You stood up, and you tried to give the presentation. And you stumbled. You made mistakes. Is that right?" "I didn't just stumble," Clara said. "I failed. It was a disaster." "And what did you learn from this disaster?" Mrs. Evelyn asked. Clara was confused by the question. "Learn? I learned that I can't do it." "No," Mrs. Evelyn said, shaking her head. "That is not a lesson. That is a judgment. What did you learn? Did you learn where your presentation is weak? Did you learn which part makes you most nervous? Did you learn that practicing for a real person is different from practicing for a cat? Clara thought about it. Well, yes. I completely forgot the statistics on slide 3. And I realized I don't have a good transition between my main idea and the budget. Excellent! Mrs. Evelyn clapped her hands. Clara was stunned. Excellent! Yes, you did not fail, Clara. You just ran a very successful experiment. You collected data. Your experiment showed you exactly what is broken. It showed you exactly what you need to fix. This is not failure. This is learning. Failure is not a wall, my dear. It is a signpost. It is a map. It is pointing you in the right direction. You are not your mistakes. You are what you learn from your mistakes. This, she explained, was the third and final tool of confidence. It is called resilience. R-E-S-I-L-I-E-N-C-E. Resilience. It is the ability to fall down, to get hurt, and to get back up again. It is the ability to bounce back. Everyone fails, Clara, Mrs. Evelyn said. Mark has failed. Mr. Harrison has failed. I have failed, more times than I can count. The only difference between a confident person and a person who gives up is resilience. It is what they do after they fail. This is perhaps the most important lesson for all of us, especially as English learners. You will make mistakes. It is not maybe. It is a 100% guarantee. You will use the wrong word. You will forget a grammar rule. You will misunderstand what someone says. You will feel embarrassed. You will fail. In that moment, your inner critic will scream, "See? You are bad at this. Give up." You have two choices. You can believe that voice. This is a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says, I am good at this, or I am bad at this. It says our abilities cannot change. Or you can have a growth mindset. A growth mindset says, I am learning this. It says, mistakes are my teachers. When you make a mistake, you can see it as a wall. I failed. I stop. Or you can see it as a signpost, a map. Ah, I made a mistake with that word. That is data. That is information. It means I need to practice that word more. That is resilience. That is a growth mindset. Be like a baby learning to walk. A baby stands up and falls. It falls 50 times, 100 times. But the baby never thinks, you know, I am just not a walker. Walking is not for me. I am going to give up. No. The baby gets up. It tries again. It is resilient. We must be like that baby when we learn English. We must see our failures as part gas of the process. So, let's practice this new mindset. Let's practice resilience. Repeat this sentence after me. It is very important. My mistakes are my teachers. Again, louder. My mistakes are my teachers. Now, let's change our identity. Instead of, I am bad at English, let's say this. Repeat after me. I am an English learner. One more time. I am an English learner. As a learner, your job is to make mistakes. It is how you grow. Clara sat in Mrs. Evelyn's living room, and for the first time she understood. Her failure with Ben was not the end. It was the final step of her preparation. It was the data she needed. So, what do I do now? Clara asked. You go home, Mrs. Evelyn said, smiling. You look at your notes. You fix slide 3. You create a better transition for the budget section. And then you get a good night's sleep. Your failure today was the best thing that could have happened. It made you stronger for tomorrow. Clara took a deep breath. She felt calm. The shadow was still there, but it was just a whisper. She knew what to do. She went home. She fixed her presentation. She practiced her new transition. And she went to bed, not feeling confident, but feeling ready. She was ready to face the fear. The next day was the big day, the presentation. Clara wore her favorite blue dress, the one that always made her feel a little bit better. She walked into the conference room. It felt huge. Mr. Harrison was there, along with two other senior executives Clara had never met. They looked very serious. Mark was there, looking relaxed and confident, shuffling his perfect-looking slides. Clara sat down, her hands so cold they felt like ice. Her stomach was doing flips. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, in her throat, in her ears. It was so loud. The shadow was back. Run! Run now. You are going to be sick. You are going to faint. They are all looking at you. They are waiting for you to fail. Mark went first. His presentation was exactly what Clara expected. It was smooth. It was polished. He used big words and impressive graphs. He did not make a single mistake. He finished, and the executives nodded, impressed. Very good, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Harrison said. Clara, you're next. Clara felt her legs shake as she stood up. This was it, the moment of truth. She walked to the front of the room. She felt like she was walking through water. She plugged in her laptop. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely get the cable in. She took a deep breath. She looked at the serious faces watching her. Her mind was empty. All her preparation, all her practice, gone. She opened her mouth. Good. Good morning, she squeaked. Her voice was tiny. She cleared her throat. My campaign is about... She stumbled. She forgot the first line she had practiced 100 times. The shadow screamed in her mind. Failure! I told you. You are a fool. She froze. The room was silent. She could feel everyone staring. This was it. The failure she was so afraid of. She looked down at her notes. She saw the first sentence she had written. The first brick. My idea is a campaign that connects with people through their personal stories. And then she remembered Mrs. Evelyn. She remembered her 3 lessons. 1. Small bricks. Just lay the next brick. The next brick is the next sentence. 2. The shadow. She took a breath and thought, Hello, shadow. I hear you, but I am busy. 3. Resilience. This was her fall. This was her moment to get back up. She took a sip of water. She looked up. She stopped trying to be perfect. She stopped trying to be Mark. She just began. I'm sorry, she said, her voice a little stronger. Let me start again. Good morning. I'm Clara, and I have an idea that I am very passionate about. She started talking. She was not presenting. She was sharing. She shared the idea that she had written that first night. She talked about why she believed in it. She talked about connecting with real people. As she spoke, something magical happened. The fear did not go away. Her heart was still pounding. Her hands were still shaking. But another feeling started to grow alongside the fear. Passion. She believed in her idea. She had done the preparation. She knew what she was talking about. She got to slide 3. She remembered her mistake with Ben. She paused. She took a breath. And she delivered the statistics clearly. She moved to the budget. She used her new, strong transition. She told them why her idea was better than a traditional, boring campaign. She was no longer just Clara, the quiet, invisible girl. She was Clara, the expert on this idea. She finished. She said her last line and looked at the executives. The room was silent again. But it was a different kind of silence. Mr. Harrison was leaning forward, looking at her with a new expression. He looked amazed. "Clara," he said slowly, that was brilliant. Genuinely brilliant. The idea of using real user stories. It's exactly what this client needs. It's human. It's modern. Mark, your idea was solid. But Clara, yours is special. The other executives started nodding. "I agree," one of them said. "It's a fresh perspective." Clara just stood there. She could not believe it. She had done it. She had been terrified. She had stumbled. And she had done it anyway. This is the most important part of the story. Did you notice? The fear never went away. Clara did not suddenly become a superhero. She did not stop being nervous. She was afraid the entire time. That is confidence. Confidence is not being fearless. Confidence is believing that you can handle the fear. Confidence is knowing that you can stumble and then get back up. The victory was not when Mr. Harrison praised her. The victory happened the moment she froze, and she chose to continue. That was the moment she truly believed in herself. That is the moment she laid the final brick, and her house of confidence was built. This is exactly the same for your English journey. Your presentation might be asking for directions in a foreign country. It might be joining a Zoom call in English. It might be just trying to make a friend. You will be nervous. Your heart will pound. Your shadow will tell you to be quiet. And your victory is not when you speak perfect English. Your victory is when you open your mouth and try, even though you are scared. Your victory is when you make a mistake and you try again. That is self-belief in action. Let's finish Clara's story. A week later, Clara was sitting in a new office. It was a little bigger. On the door, a small sign said, "Clara Jensen, Project Lead, Horizon Campaign." She was leading the project. It was hard work. She was still nervous in meetings. But it was different now. When the shadow whispered, she knew what to do. "Hello, shadow," she would think. "I'm busy leading my team." Even Mark came to her office. "Hey, Clara," he said, leaning on the door. "That was a really amazing idea you had. I'm really looking forward to working on this with you." Clara smiled. A real, genuine smile. "Thanks, Mark." "I am too." That weekend, Clara bought a large bouquet of flowers and went to Mrs. Evelyn's house. "They're beautiful, dear," Mrs. Evelyn said, putting them in a vase. "But you know, you did all the work. I just gave you the blueprints." "You taught me how to build," Clara said. "Thank you." As she was leaving, Mrs. Evelyn said, "Just remember, Clara, your house is built, but a house always needs care. You have to keep strengthening it, keep taking small actions, keep preparing, and keep being resilient. That is how you build a life." Clara's story is our story. Her journey shows us the path. It is not magic. It is a process. It is a choice. It is 3 simple, practical steps. First, we break our big, scary goals into tiny, small actions. We lay 1 brick at a time. Second, we prepare. We do the work. We build our armor against fear. We learn to acknowledge our inner critic, our shadow, and then get back to the work. And third, we practice resilience. We learn to see our mistakes and our failures not as walls, but as signposts, as data, as teachers. We learn to fall, and then we learn to get back up every single time. This is how you build real, lasting confidence. This is how you believe in yourself. So, as we end our podcast today, I want you to think about your journey. Your goal of learning English is your Horizon project. It feels big. It feels scary, but you do not have to build it all today. What is your one small brick? What is the one small action you can take, right now or today, to move forward? Maybe your brick is listening to this podcast a second time, this time writing down 5 new words. Maybe your brick is finding an English song, listening to it, and trying to write down the lyrics. Or maybe your brick is the bravest one of all. Maybe your brick is leaving a comment below this podcast. You do not have to write a perfect paragraph. Just write one sentence. Write, "Hello, Alex. I am listening." Or, "I am laying my first brick." That is your action. That is your proof to yourself that you can do this. This is Alex from English in Fluency. Thank you so much for listening today. I want you to go out and build your house of confidence. Lay one brick, and then another. You are not alone on this journey. I am here to help you. Keep practicing. Keep believing in yourself. And I will see you in the next episode.